everyone.
Well, since we last met this summer, I have been so excited thinking about how fun it is to have you here with our people at this event. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm completely out of my depth in the room. I'm going to say that. But I'm really excited to be amongst you guys and you, Danielle. Thank you to the Stellar team for having me. It's great.
Well, so I know how much my growing up played a part, and my childhood played a part in what I do and what I care about. And I know that we've had conversations about your childhood and your growing up, but I want to know how you has this impacted your work, like the way that you've grown up and the things that you've encountered?
Yeah, I mean, being a sort of really imaginative only child has allowed this sort of, information both ways, coming in and going out, moving a million miles just to try and figure out ways to tell stories and how to be innovative around telling stories. When you're an only child, you get bored really quickly with one thing. So you move around, you do different things, and before you know it, you've got like a skill set of 100 people because you've just tried different things to try and keep yourself thinking. And definitely as a filmmaker and an actor, that's been sort of the lifeblood of my career. Most of my career has been in different genres, different languages, different countries. And that's, I think, a product of who I am as a child.
Well, when we last spoke, you told me about some of the things that you did. Do you want to give this audience like a sneak peek about some of the things that you did when you were growing up? Because it felt like you were like constantly doing something to move yourself forward.
Yeah. Well, I have asthma. I don't know if anyone else has asthma, but when I was younger, in the 70s.
It's not bad to be in the 70s.
In the 70s, in the cusp of the 80s, asthma was really unmanageable for young kids in school. And so at some junction, the school that I was going to said, look, we can't really deal with Idris. We have to send him to a school for special needs. And asthma is one of these things that comes and goes, right? So I went to this school, which is a full-on school for, special needs children. And a wide range of spectrum. But what happened at this school for me was an explosion of my mind, because I found myself, there were many kids that weren't able-bodied. There were some kids with severe disability. And I found myself in the middle of this classroom with kids who were on that wide spectrum, albeit I was seemingly able-bodied until I had an asthma attack. But what I found is that with some of these kids, even with the extreme disability, there was this willingness to learn, willingness to achieve. And I made the most incredible friendship groups because we could see each other. We could, symmetrize. Even though they weren't as able-bodied as me, they felt they were through me. And I felt their quest to be able to be as able-bodied as I was. And so I found myself learning things that at an incredible rate, really insatiable sort of energy to want to learn and do, especially when I'm watching a kid that was finding it difficult in certain physicalities, doing it, trying really hard to do it. So that happened to me when I was about 11. And my teenage years just became something different. So I found myself, when I left that school, just wanting to do everything I possibly can. I played every sports. I tackled every club that I could in school. So if there was a club for something else that I wasn't really interested in, like chemistry, I'd do it because I was just interested. The music, I learned how to play, 5 instruments. But I'm not great at any of them, but I just learned how to do it. So I say that all to say that, the sort of acquisition of knowledge was something that my youth really exploded. And I think that's sort of now I'm 51 years old and I still want to learn. I still, want to learn.
Well, some of that, it shows in all of the various things that you do. You're an actor, you're a musician. What else? There's so many things.
I'm a father.
A father, yeah. I have two of my sons in the audience, and I wanted both of them to hear all the clubs that you did. So, guys, pick up on that. It's so awesome to be able to see that. And it also, you've pushed yourself forward to be able to do so much and to have such an impact, which is a lot of the reason why we reached out to Idris, is that the combination of what you've done in your life experiences, and what you continue to do today, connecting with what we want, our mission, and what we're directed at, which is that notion of creating an equal playing field, is really important. But I want to know, why did you take our call?
Well, I took a call because I saw, with this idea of sort of wanting to learn, you're really talking about solutions. You're talking about, why do I want to learn this? Because it's a solution to get into here. And you guys, definitely approach financial inclusion with solution-based technology, right? And that was really fascinating to me. Now, how, as an actor, how does that, make my life any different? Well, one of the goals that I really, have always focused on is understanding how I can unlock the potential of creative arts for young people. Okay, young people, filmmakers at the beginning of their journeys do not have the finances to get to the end sometimes, a lot of times. And it's even worse in emerging markets. So I took your call because I was so keen to understand how the tech that you provide, the solution-based knowledge you have around fintech can help tell better stories. I focus a lot of my work on Africa and trying to unlock the potential of African filmmakers, storytellers. And the reason I want to do that is because I believe that if Africa could sort of tell better stories about its culture, its history, its future, it might shift some of the, the paradigms that are there now. So young people seeing themselves as superheroes will make the next generation of superheroes. But how can they tell those stories if they don't have the potential to be involved in the financing of those stories? And that's where, our early conversations, I was like, well, I would love to find a way to introduce tools, introduce builders, to make tools to help the creative art industry, not just in Africa, but the creative arts industry for young people to explode. And what do those tools look like? And that's where I got so excited about the potential of Stellar, the potential of blockchain, potential of all the sort of tools that you guys are building that, introduce connectivity with finance. And that was the big thing for me.
Yeah, it's been great, the conversations we've had. And one of the things that I love about what you've done in your work is that instead of sometimes we think that we can solve problems with money. Sometimes we think we can do a lot of humanitarian aid and that'll take care of it, but we know that that's not the full solution. That's only part of the solution. And so much of your work has been focused on giving those tools. Yeah. The tools to the creators, the tools to the folks that are interested in telling their story, and you not just telling the story for them, which is what I love about it. Yeah,
having your own voice is really, really important. So my wife and I, we work in agriculture, and we work with IFAD. We're both UN ambassadors, goodwill ambassadors. But what we found is that, in rural areas, what people forget is that when the sun goes down, everything goes down. It's dark. For most of us, we have the luxury of 24-hour electricity, but in rural countries, when it goes dark, there's half your communication is shut off immediately because it's dark. You just can't see. You can't travel as well. You can't do much. So that's half the 24-hour cycle where there is no connectivity or less connectivity. And what we realize is that tech in agriculture is an incredible way to help build productivity, to fight the food insecurity. to fight and control the climate crisis using tech, electricity, connectivity, and basically finding a way to get ideas out. What we found when we're doing work with agriculture is that the farmers know the best solutions to fix their own problems. They don't need Idris or Sabrina. They have their own solutions. They just don't have the tech to get that out or to be able to amplify those solutions. So that's where, this connectivity between tech and humanitarian work is really crucial. This is so crucial. So going back to the film industry, absolutely, finding mechanisms, tools to allow creators to tell their stories, to find financing, to distribute, to own, to copyright is really important.
Well, it's been so much fun working with you because, just in the video, in the film, wasn't that film amazing, by the way? Yeah. It really comes through, and the work that we did, even leading up to that, your desire to make that change and to do it through providing tools is pretty remarkable. And what I love about the video and the way that we pull that thread through is that it happens for everyone in lots of different areas. And from your standpoint, what is it that, when you were doing that video, what sort of came to you? What was your vision for it? Because so much of it you had input on.
Yeah, I guess, you get an opportunity to make a commercial and you want it to make an impact. For me, the video spans different cultures, different scenarios, and they're not usually the type of scenarios that one would think of, right? You kind of go, okay, let's sell a product. Let's show people using our product. Let's show success stories. But in this story, we went the other way. It was okay, let's show you the best user case. Let's show you a user case that won't be on your table and your consciousness. So the woman and her family, how does a Stellar network or a Stellar powered product help that woman? And that's what we wanted to do with the commercial, is kind of just highlight these user cases, highlight what the real world looks like. In commercials, everything's happy. It's 30-minute shot. But in this commercial, it was about, okay, this is what the real world looks like. These are the, tactical problems that people face. How can this network do that? I think there's a real sort of, not mystery, but a fog around blockchain technology and the tools. And, if you ask the average room, what can it do? I'm not sure everyone understands that because they can't relate. So in this commercial, it was about trying to find a way to make it relatable somehow, and then, me sitting at a coffee table, having a coffee. But my presence as an actor who I'm very focused on, I have the most amazing life as an actor. I get to work around the world, meet different cultures, but the best part of my job is to be able to use the box that I have to amplify these things. That's the best part of it, to be fair. I admire actors. I admire people that step out of their comfort zones to raise their hands and say, hey, look at me, but also look at this, Yeah,
I think that the video is, the commercial is one of those. What we were trying to do was leverage the skill that you have with telling stories. And so much of what I want this audience to understand is that storytelling doesn't just have to happen with creators. You're all creators in a different way. And telling that story to the humans that you're trying to touch is such an important part of this, which is what I love. And we've spent a lot of time talking about the fact that we want to give tools to humans to be able to improve their own lives, rather than us saying what their lives should look like. And so I think we've spent a lot of time talking about a lot of different ideas because it sparks conversations.
The idea of, human beings communicating, sharing ideas, making deals is as old as time. At one point, shells were blockchain, It was like, this is a representation of my finance. It's a shell. But at some point, the adoption of that idea became what we understand as money, right? What we understand as wealth and wealth distribution. And I liken this room of thinkers to that very first human with the shell idea. Like, hey, this is a different way for us to do it. And we live in a world, which is highlighted here, that distribution of wealth is so uneven. And that's not fair, because it means that one side will stay in the dark for 12 hours the whole time. The sun will never shine on that until we find people like yourself to distribute tools, shells, that go, hey, you can actually see in the dark. Check this out, you know? Sorry, I went all poetic there.
Oh, no, that's awesome. That's what I love. Like, he's got the poetry. I don't know. I can't bring that. One of the things that I don't know that this audience knows about you is your connection to West Africa. And so maybe you could give them a little background on your focus there and what you've done there.
Yeah, so my parents are from Ghana and Sierra Leone. My mom's from Ghana, my dad's from Sierra Leone. I was born in England. I've been to Sierra Leone and Ghana many times. I've made movies in Ghana. And the West African region is no stranger to adversity. You know, there's been many, many struggles, especially in Sierra Leone. So being a son of the soil, being celebrated internationally, I've tried to use that energy to focus on areas that could use growth and development. I'm currently an ambassador for Sierra Leone, and with Sierra Leone especially, the growth potential is incredible. It's a small country with 7 million people. The median age is 20, 22. And, you know, there's so much opportunity to leapfrog using educative tools around fintech, using the creative arts, using tourism, and just finding ways to help an emerging market like that actually emerge. With Ghana, Ghana has found ways to be a lot more progressive and internationally connected, and they have such goodwill, such incredible thinkers there, really great universities, good governance, and just forward-thinking people. And so I'm working with them. We're trying to build a film studio in Ghana, in Accra, which hopefully will attract international filmmaking to the West African region. Currently in Africa, there are maybe 2 or 3 international film stages, and so I'd like to bring one to the West Africa, yeah.
Which is so amazing to think about. The frustration point for me is the fact that there's so, and it gets back to what I talked about earlier, is the idea that there's so much potential that we're not able to unlock because they don't have the tools to turn the lights on for 12 hours during the day, or whatever issue you want to highlight there. And one of the things that we've talked about is how we can work together and sort of extend our relationship to maybe bring more tools to different parts of Africa. For me, it is such an amazing space because they're already so mobile forward. They're already so focused on leveraging digital assets because they focus on digital in the mobile money. Yeah. And so it's such a great space to be able to focus on doing that and to put a lot of attention to bringing revenue-generating business. We already have some. I highlighted some today, but revenue-generating businesses so that they actually can create their own story and their own voices.
Yeah, I mean, going back to just creatives, you know, if you're a YouTuber in a West African region, you know, it's sort of very difficult for you to gain more followers and to make money, remunerate from that, because if you're unbankable, there's no way for YouTube to actually connect you and give you your money for your followership. So that cycle just doesn't get broken until there's a tool that allows the interface in between YouTube and this West African creator. That creator grows, tells stories, people are more interested in that region. It's a small idea. So some of the tools you and I have been discussing is how can I find ways to get creators to come together to fund projects together and to be communities of creatives. In America, they call it Disney. It's the same thing. It's kind of like a family of creators that push out a lot of content. But what can we do about empowering, you know, a young Disney from a small village in Africa? And this is where you guys come in. And this is where, you know, some of the tools that I've been exposed to using blockchain have just got me so excited. You know, when you make a movie, they call it a bond. It's kind of like an insurance policy. And that bonding allows the film to be made and financed. And it's like an interactive tool to allow everyone that works on that film, whether it's distribution, actors, to know that the film has been bonded and it's good. In other words, we've secured it. It's like an insurance policy. There are ways that the tools that you offer can actually do that for young African filmmakers, for young English filmmakers, without going through the really rigorous and more established bonding setups. So that's one idea for me where I could okay, could I find a way to make not insurance, but bond films, bond creation, sort of give them the sort of the seal to say, right, this investment is, you know, safeguarded.
That's right. There's so many opportunities, especially with Sorbonne coming on board, to be able to do that on Stellar. And already so many of you have built products that are leverageable and usable in this kind of thing. I think about the work that we do, and I love being able to work with someone like you who is of the similar mission and mindset that we're focused on. It might not be always trained on the financial inclusion and financial access, but the notion of those tools. It all goes back to those tools. And I think about that old saying, right? You can give someone a fish, but if you gave them a fishing pole and taught them how to do it, life is so much better. And it is absolutely true. Yeah. And when we think about that, and we think about the tools that we can put in the hands of individuals and humans in different regions of the world, and that you already are, it sort of changes the whole dynamics. And it's been so fun to share that with you.
No, absolutely. It's been great to sort of ideate. I remember probably about 7 years ago, I was invited to Parliament in the UK to speak about diversity in the film industry. Okay, and it was this, you know, 5-10 minute speech, and I talked about opportunities. I talked about, you know, talent being everywhere, but opportunity not being everywhere. My speech didn't change the world, but what it did was become an anchor point for change. It was just a moment where film industry in England, film industry around the world could kind of say, okay, yeah, there was this one moment where we talked about this and we ideated on ideas how to change it. So my speech in that moment in Parliament became an anchor point. It became a point to say, well, we could start off with these ideas. When I think about how to look at and unlock financial inclusion for young creatives in Africa, I don't think I can do that by myself, but I can certainly be the anchor point. Because people like celebrity. People like to look at guys that are on TV and say, hey, he's talking about my field. So I become an anchor point, right? And I really feel for young creatives, across the world, they look to me as someone of a beacon. Because I'm not afraid to try different things. I'm not afraid to fall on my face. I'm not afraid to get up and try again. So I get a lot from young creatives that, hey man, you kind of inspire me. So hopefully, I can be that anchor point between that inspiration and unlocking these innovative tools to finance inclusion around this. That's my goal. You know, I'm never going to start a fintech company myself. Well, maybe. Maybe. Okay,
we'll convince them.
But that's not my necessary goal. My goal is to amplify the opportunities that you guys can bring and try and bring the next wave of thinkers and creators.
And so much of it is about, and we've talked about this a lot, is that making sure that we are solving the problems from the local perspective. I mean, so much of the storytelling comes from people experiencing it themselves and telling their stories. And I love everything that you've done to be able to tell your story, but also to help others tell theirs. And one of the things, this whole YouTube problem in Africa, it's already solvable using the network. So we should get on that.
Yeah, we should. I mean, 75% of all online activity is on a mobile phone. In a country that has 1.3 billion people, but only, I think, 45 to 55% have a mobile phone. So the potential's there, it screams itself, and I'm really excited about that, really excited about that.
Me too, and I'm so excited and honored that you took our call. I'm grateful to you. It has been such an inspiration to talk to you. Idris, as you can see, he has this ability to come up with like 5 different ideas in the period of, 4 minutes, and I'm like, okay, yeah, those are all great. How do we actually make this happen? But it's been so wonderful to have you be just a great sounding board, a creator for us, a storyteller for us. Yeah. Thank you for all of that.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Stella. Thank you guys for working hard and going in. You're really, not to be corny, but you're pioneers, right? Because not everyone is looking at this space in the same way you guys are. And that's like frontier stuff, Star Trek shit. So go for it.
And then the one question, or the one thing I think this audience would love to hear is, do you think maybe if we invited you next year, you would come back to see all of these people again?
I would love to come back on one condition, that we share what we learned from this year and our growth to next year. I would absolutely, including myself. So hopefully next year I would have partnered up with 5 of you and we can share what we've done.
You heard that.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to see you. Thank you so much.